Creepy things keep happening to me in the night, so I'm sharing it on here so someone can debunk it or tell me what's going on. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts, just go and watch them, they're on my page. This isn't for views, it's so you can be updated. So since my last post, it's been a while since something happened, but the first time I was home alone was when shit got scary. But it's not just me that things are happening to, so I'm going to give you an update from everyone who lives here. So like I say, it's a big plot of land. Me and my boyfriend live in our own place and his family live in another place but on the same land. So his family went away, so it was just us alone on the land. So most of the time that I hear things, it's usually after my boyfriend's gone to sleep, like a while after, but my boyfriend had fell asleep. Within 5 minutes, shit started to get spooky. So we have a lot of dogs, we have 6 dogs, and all of them started barking. Not like they were like barking and playing, they were barking at something. And then a voice goes, "Shh, boys," to the dogs, which is confusing because how do you know the gender of the dogs and who the fuck are you? We have big electric gates, okay? You can't get through without a pin to open them, and they close after 30 seconds, so it's not like someone could have walked through because they were left open. So it was confusing how someone got on the land, but it was also confusing as to why this was happening whilst we were home alone, because it could not be mistaken for anyone else who lives here. And again, they knew the gender of the dogs. The footsteps then walked, because we have stones, so it's very distinctive footsteps, walked all the way around the back of our house, and a car door shut. Obviously there's a lot of cars on this land as they're mechanics, but they're all currently being moved to the workplace, but there's still a few around. And these don't lock. There is no sets of keys for these, okay? They do not lock. So it was like somebody had gotten in to that car and just stayed in it, just completely didn't move after that. So I woke my boyfriend up because obviously I'm worried, okay, and the last time this happened, a crazy lady ended up being on the land. So instead of me thinking this was a ghost, my first reaction was to think that this woman was back somehow, and that is a threat to us as it's our land and that's trespassing, and this woman is a bit loopy. My boyfriend woke up, and as he woke up, we had to sit there in silence, and you could hear footsteps right by our window, but there was no one there. No one, and not a soul. So that immediately stopped the idea of being a crazy lady, because we would see her, not just hear her. We could hear this person, this thing, right outside the window, but there was no one there. So the footsteps were there, but there was no person, which was really creepy. We ended up just going to sleep, because who can be bothered to deal with that, mate? I was trying to watch Gossip Girl. The next morning we checked around the land and found muddy footprints throughout one of the cars. However, we didn't have access to the cameras, so we had to wait till his parents got back, and I don't think they've got round to checking it yet, so we're still not sure what that was. We also don't know if anything will show up on the cameras, because again, we could hear the footsteps right in front of us, but we couldn't see anyone. My boyfriend's sister had recently had a party, and she had 1 balloon left in her bedroom. She has this like open wardrobe, and she's seen people in that wardrobe. She's seen me walk through her wall, literally walk through her door and then through her wall. I've seen her over here peering round a corner and she's not there. Like the most people who see stuff tend to be me and my boyfriend's sister. So this balloon, there is no fan, no windows open, starts like floating upwards, okay? It's not a helium balloon, it just floats up, and then it starts to come towards her. It stops right in front of her when she whips out a camera. She pulled out her camera, and randomly, out of nowhere, this thing started flying towards her, bouncing up and down, just moving in a way that couldn't be done by air. And the most recent thing was she could hear people walking around their house, and then it was like this person, this thing, had stopped right outside her door, which was confusing because it went from outside to outside her bedroom door, almost like it walked through a wall. Now her bedroom door has a creak that it specifically makes when you stand outside. It made one creak as if one foot was on it, and then another creak as if it moved their weight. Does that make sense? She had her friend sleeping over, and out of nowhere it went dead quiet, and then she literally told me, I kid you not, she just got on the head. She was smacked on the head. Obviously she looked straight at her friend, and her friend was rolled over facing the other way. All of the doors were creaking, but they weren't opening. Like, they make noises when they open, and usually everyone says, oh, can you close your door please, when that noise was being made. But no one was asking to close the doors because no one else could hear it. It's genuinely like it targets one person at a time, and you can't hear it if you're not that one person. Obviously she ended up falling asleep, because what can you do in that situation? But me and my boyfriend's sister are the only 2 people who have actually been physically affected by this. I've had my hair pulled from the root, she's been smacked on the head. Nobody else has had that happen. My boyfriend's heard my front door open and shut, like the drawers opening, the footsteps, but there's no one there. Like it will be the middle of the day and we'll shout hello, because we heard the front door go and footsteps, and there will be no one in the house. And at this point, we're just genuinely confused because it can go completely quiet and nothing can happen and we can think, oh my god, we're paranoid, like what's going on? And then it can go from silent to absolutely insane in a matter of a day. The smaller things that happen, like for example, I can have my hairbrush right in front of me and then I'll lose it. I'll look in every single possible place. I'll turn around and it's in a place I just looked. I can swear on everything that it wasn't there a second ago. Do you get what I'm saying? I've seen reflections of people in my TV, my mirror, obviously when my TV's off. My boyfriend's little sister has seen through my house windows people following me, and then she'll call us up nearly in tears telling us about it, and as we try and walk past to recreate it thinking it's a shadow, she's like, no, it wasn't that, I promise. My boyfriend's other sister, she's a lot younger, but she was in her bedroom and she looked out towards her dad's digger and she could see that this person was sat in it, but the door was shut and their leg was like out of the door with the door being shut. She was frozen in fear. She couldn't do anything, so she ended up just having to get up and go and get her dad. And this was in the middle of the night, by the way, and when she looked back and her dad came with her to close the curtains, they were gone. She described this man as the exact same person that I see sitting on my couch, but I can't see them sitting on my couch, I can only see it through my mirror. And I had not explained what this man looked like to her. There's obviously a lot more going on, but I couldn't fit it all in one video if I tried. But if anyone can tell me what's going on, or what's happening, or if this is all just us all being delusional, or anything like that, let me know. Because genuinely, it got to a point where I was putting salt outside my bedroom doors and stuff like that, laying it down to see if there was footsteps, like to stop ghosts coming through. I'm genuinely terrified. Nothing seems to be working. It just goes quiet and it comes back 10 times worse. So please let me know if you think of anything that we can do to sort this problem. I love you, thanks for watching. Bye!
My wife died in a car crash 3 years ago. Last night, she unlocked the front door and told me to run. My wife died 3 years ago in a massive car accident on the highway during heavy rain. I didn't see the crash myself, and by the time I got there, they had already covered the car with tarp. I remember the police telling me not to look, but I did anyway. I regretted it immediately, and after that, my life just became a complete blur. People say grief changes your memory, and maybe they're right, because for the past 3 years, every single night at exactly 8:52 p.m, I still look towards the front door, and I don't think she's coming back. It's just the exact same time she used to get home from work. It became a trauma habit I never managed to break. Yesterday, at exactly 8:32 p.m, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. I remember checking the clock first, actually laughing a little bit at the timing, and figured it was the delivery driver or one of the neighbourhood kids messing around. Then I looked through the peephole. My wife was standing outside. Same dark coat, same black handbag. Her hair was still damp like she'd been caught in the rain. Exactly how she looked the day that she died. For a second, my brain genuinely stopped working. I just stood there frozen, staring through the glass, and then she smiled. It wasn't wide or unnatural, it was just normal. Like she'd come home after a completely ordinary day. And then she spoke right through the door. "You're taking too long," she said. That completely broke me. Those were the exact same words she used to say whenever I'd leave her standing on the porch. I don't even remember unlocking the deadbolt. I just remember suddenly she was inside the house, walking past me, leaving faint, wet footprints across the hardwood floor. I couldn't breathe. I kept staring at her hands because she still had her gold wedding ring on. She walked into the kitchen like nothing was wrong and asked why the lights were off. Same voice, same movements, and I actually started sobbing and asked her where she'd been. She looked confused, laughed softly and said, "At work. Where else would I be?" Part of me wanted to believe it so badly, but something felt horribly wrong. It wasn't obvious, just small things, tiny pauses before she answered my questions, smiling a fraction of a second too late, blinking less than a normal person does. It felt like watching something trying very, very hard to act human after only hearing descriptions of one. Then she looked towards the hallway mirror and completely froze. I noticed immediately she wasn't staring at her own reflection, she was staring at me, specifically me. Then she quietly asked, "Who's standing behind you?" My stomach dropped out of my body. There was nobody behind me. I spun around instantly anyway, but the hallway was empty. When I looked back at her, she wasn't smiling anymore. She looked absolutely terrified. Her eyes were locked on the empty space right over my shoulder. She whispered, "Don't let it learn your face." Every single light in the house blew out at once. Total darkness. I heard movement in the kitchen, fast, heavy movement, then footsteps, not one set, multiple, running and circling the room way too fast to belong to a normal person. I grabbed my phone, fumbled with the screen and turned on the flashlight. The kitchen was empty, my wife was gone, the back door was standing wide open with wet footprints leading outside into the dark. But there was something else on the floor too. Another set of footprints, longer, distorted, and they stopped right behind the exact spot that I had been standing in, like something had been looming directly behind me the entire time, just watching us. I didn't sleep that night. I've been sitting in my living room with every light on, waiting for the sun to come up. But tonight, at exactly 8:32 p.m, someone knocked again. 3 slow knocks. And this time, I can hear my wife crying on the other side of the door.
Get ready with me, let's talk paranormal experiences that I've had. So growing up, I grew up in a very spiritual, like my mum's very spiritual, she's very open and sees a lot of that side. She's practiced in like mediumship and spiritual things. So I've had a lot growing up and always been told never to be afraid, but never ever ever do a Ouija board. Like, if you do a Ouija board, you're not coming back in this house. That was my mum's #1 rule if I decided to dabble with anything of the unknown. So after a long day at the beach with my best friend's parents, because we were all really close and we were like family, they told me when I got back to theirs that they actually had a Ouija board. And I was like, oh, cool. And they were like, it's never worked for us. Like, nothing's ever come through. We use it a lot to reach out to family members that are passed. And I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. And they showed me this board and it was like glass. And I thought, wow, that's so cool to see one in person. And they're like, do you want to have a go with us? Like, should we just give it a go? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I'm 18. Like, I have no fear, you know. And I had seen many horror films. I've been a horror fan for years. So you'd think I would be smart enough not to do one. And I did. And we reached out. There was 3 of us. So there was her dad, her mum, and then me. And the second I put my hands on that board, I felt like some weird current. I don't know how to explain it, like an electric energy shoot through my arms, and I've never felt anything like it, like genuinely. And they reached out and asked if anyone was there, and it obviously moved to yes. And we're all looking at each other like, what the fuck, this board's never worked before. And obviously I don't know much about the family's history. We're just, you know, it's just something we didn't talk about. We hadn't been like friends for like years and years and years sort of thing. And then we asked for the name of this person, and it spelled out the name of my friend's granddad. So the mum and the dad I was doing it with, it was his dad. And I was like, who's this person? And he was like, it's my dad. He yeeted himself when I was 21. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, I wouldn't have known about this. And he was like, if this really is you, then can you spell out something only I would know, or, you know. And it actually spelled out, I'm sorry. And I was like, oh my god. Like, I felt the energy in that room. It wasn't heavy, it was just insane. And he looked at his wife and he was like, did you do that? And she was like, I wouldn't do that to you. Like, I know how hurt you've been all these years. And he was like, I never ever forgave my dad for doing that. I've been so angry at him since I was young. And yeah, that came through, and we were all sat there like, that's never happened before. The board's never worked before. Everyone was in shock. Obviously it went back and forward, like, did anyone dabble with it? And I was like, well, I wouldn't have known because I had no idea about the whole situation in general. And you just wouldn't do that as his wife. And then after that, we never actually spoke about it again. It was just like one of those things. And I did not sleep for like 2 weeks after because I was so spooked, like, honestly. The one that sticks in my mind, I'm going to do 2 in this if I can. So my granddad passed when I was 9 years old, and he was always very cheeky and he was just funny. He was a cheeky guy, right? And my mum always felt his presence around, and she's always been very open about that. And every time she's been to a medium, he always came through. Everything was so accurate. And then one day we were at home. It was around, I don't know what time of year it was now, but I was about 13, and we have an upstairs bathroom, like a little toilet, and then the bathroom's actually downstairs. And one day the door just locked shut. It jammed shut, it locked itself. And we were like, what the fuck? So we've spent hours trying to unlock this door, and we're like, what is going on? My stepdad tried, and he's a pretty stocky guy, like, he's pretty strong. nothing would open. So basically we all went about our day and just forgot about this door upstairs, and like it wasn't really an inconvenience because we had the toilet downstairs. It's just like, what's going on? Like, it's just weird. And we all went to work and school, etc., and just went about our day, came back, and I kid you not, my mum joked about, I don't know why this came into her head, I couldn't tell you, and she was like, "Granddad, open the door," and the door opened. I wish I could explain it. It's fucking wild. It's not the only thing he's done. He's a cheeky bugger. My mum lives in nearly a 200-year-old house as well. But this was the first experience we'd had with what we think was our granddad. And, I mean, we've never had any horrible experiences. Nothing that's really frightening or concerning. When we moved in, we did actually have the house cleansed by someone because the previous person that lived in it was very angry and she did some really nasty things to her kids apparently, so the energy was very heavy. Everyone was arguing, so mum got the house cleansed and it was all good again. And then the same year that my granddad decided to lock the bathroom door, we were all at work, so this was Christmas time. We were all at work and school, etc. I must have been around, 12, 13 again. And we had 3 dogs, which obviously got locked in the kitchen so they could just go out the back during the day. And we came home and the box of roses was empty. It was either roses or Quality Streets. This was years ago. It was empty. And we were like, what the fuck? And when a dog would eat through it, for one, how would she open the tin? And even if she did, there would be wrappers everywhere. I know my dogs, and yeah, they would have left evidence, good and proper. And they were, funnily enough, my granddad's favourite chocolates. And yeah, they just disappeared. That was another one that was very weird. So I was just like, cheers, now I've got to go out and buy another tub of chocolates. But there was nowhere, like, we were all out, no one had been home, we all got home at sort of the same time, so there was no explanation to, one, where did the wrappers go? He really hid his evidence here. 2, like, the dog, like I said, would have left a mess. I have no explanation for that one. Only one that really sticks in my head that kind of frightened me was, I was around 14, I was going through some really, really bad shit in my life. And I was asleep in my room and I woke up. This was at my mum's house again. I woke up in the middle of the night and there was something standing at the end of my bed, like a black figure. And apparently a lot of people have seen this. I've read up on it for years and years and years. He just stood over me. He was really fucking tall. I believe once or twice he was wearing a top hat. The doctors blamed it on psychosis when I was hospitalized, but to this day I'm not convinced that it was. And I was like, I froze, like I literally could not move, and I was fully awake and functioning. And ever since then, my bedroom at my mum's had like a window above the door. I slept with the landing light on because that terrified me. I was literally paralyzed. It was so scary. I don't know what it was. He never hurt me. He didn't necessarily feel threatening. It was just very scary, like creepy, like what the fuck is that sort of thing. And I just froze in my bed, pulled my duvet over my head, and then just shut my eyes for the night. And yeah, that's really stuck in my head. And that happened a few times, and I didn't feel like a bad energy, so I just assumed maybe it was my granddad. But then, because my granddad was very tall and stocky, I don't know, but it was very creepy. And like I said, the doctors labelled it as psychosis, and they basically said, like, because your mind is a mess, things like this are going to happen. And I'm like, great. So they put me on antipsychotics and all of that. But I've not seen it since. It's very weird. Love to talk about dark energies in places as well. That's one that really follows me around in my head, is where I used to work, and there's like so many fucked stories behind it and like stuff I've experienced. So if you want to know about them, let me know in the comments because I'd love to talk about them.
The very true scary paranormal story that I'm going to be sharing with you today actually involves seeing the attachment that caused the doll to be haunted. It's a little unnerving, so if that is not your thing, if you don't like haunted dolls, this is probably not the story for you. But if you do love that sort of thing, turn off a light, get cozy, and let me read this story to you, sent in by one of you guys. So I have 6 sisters, 2 older than me, the rest younger, and 2 brothers. One is the oldest of us all, while the other is the baby. My oldest sister, Belle, had an antique porcelain doll, and her grandmother gave it to her at like the age of 4 or 5. Now, this doll was extremely creepy to everyone, even Belle. Our grandmother never really told us where it came from.
Well, one night, Belle and all 4 of my older sisters, as well as my oldest brother, begged my dad to have a scary movie marathon. Now, one thing about me is I used to absolutely hate horror movies. I would have vivid night terrors whenever I would watch anything like that as a child. My dad and stepmom said, fine, we'll have a marathon, but if anyone gets scared, it's not our problem. Me, I went downstairs to the basement, where this creepy doll was stored in a big closet, and watched Avatar. I watched a few episodes. My dad called me upstairs for food, so I paused and ran upstairs. I ate super quick and told everyone, hey, love you, but going back downstairs to watch more Avatar, and that's exactly what I did. I ran back downstairs, got to the second landing, leading to the basement, and turned. Even writing this part is starting to have me a little bit panicked. When I turned to go fully into the basement, there was an old lady in a white gown with oily, stringy black hair sitting in the rocking chair. Her eyes were bulging out of her eye sockets, unnaturally large. Same with her smile, and if you've seen the movie Smile, it was pretty much that exact smile. There was something that took me a second longer to process. This woman, this scary woman with way too big of a smile to be natural, was holding my sister's doll in her lap and stroking the doll's head like a mother would a child. Now please keep in mind, all of this is happening within the span of like 4 to 6 seconds, but I know what I saw. I screamed like I never had before and ran upstairs to get my dad. He ran downstairs with me thinking someone had broke in, but there was no one there. We go down and the doll that was in the closet is now sitting in front of the rocking chair. And the chair was rocking back and forth. Closet door shut and locked. No one was in that basement at all except for me and my dad. To this day, I have no idea what I truly saw. My theory is what I saw was whatever was attached to that porcelain doll Belle was given. It wasn't friendly and I knew it wanted to harm me. I could feel it. I've truly tried to find every rational explanation, but there's nothing. To this day, I haven't been able to find anything. So it does sound to me like they saw the actual attachment, which is terrifying because you don't know how rare that actually is. This very true and very creepy story from the Appalachian Mountains takes place in Kentucky, Lincoln County, Kentucky to be exact. So one day, Landon and his friends decide they want to explore the property that surrounds their grandmother's house a little bit. Around a mile or so in, something begins to call out Landon's name. Landon ignores it and continues talking with his friend like nothing is going on, because that is exactly what you're supposed to do. But he looks over and sees something off to the side. There is now a very pale creature on all fours that has seemingly spawned out of nowhere. Somehow the friend had not seen it, and Landon's new mission was to get them home as quickly as possible and to not let the friend see what he is seeing. Now, if they had any more experiences, they did not share them with me, so hopefully because Landon acted smart and fast, they'll have no more. But yeah, sometimes you can do literally everything you're supposed to and things still.
Everywhere I move, sinister things always follow me. This is the third and last story my follower sent me, who has had paranormal activity following him since his dad brought something sinister home from Louisiana. If you haven't watched the first and second story, make sure to save this and come back to it and watch those first. Not long after I moved back to Louisiana from Texas, I had married twice, and both of those marriages didn't last for their own reasons. I'm now married to wife number 3, and, well, as of today, it's been 13 years, and oh boy, has it been a roller coaster ride. After wife 3 and I were married, we found a place in Deadwood, Texas. We stayed there for only a few months. She worked nights, and I slept on the couch. It was a very uncomfortable place. I could not sleep without the lights on in the house because of things touching me or pushing me. One night was the last straw. Her cat was coughing up blood and had some coming from its nose for no reason at all. We moved as soon as possible and found another place to rent. During this time, I worked in an oil field from 2005 to 2015. At this new place, my wife had noticed she kept hearing her name being called. She would see someone peeking around corners of the house, and no one would be there but her. The cats would run around and be playing with things that we could not see. You could smell cigarette smoke, and we weren't smokers. One night, as I was working at an oil well location, the land was said to be haunted. My drivers would report people walking up and down the leased roads in the middle of the night in Civil War clothes. Anyways, I was on the phone talking to my wife and I kept hearing a noise in the backseat of my truck. So I turned the light on, but I didn't find anything. The noise continued on and my wife said, "You have a camera, just take a picture and see if you can see it that way." So I took a picture and it freaked me out. Nothing else happened that night until I got home from work. I got ready for bed and my wife left for the day. I'm laying in a blacked out room with no daylight whatsoever. Then I hear the bedroom door open and I see a silhouette of what looked like my wife. I sleep on my stomach, so I'm looking at her beside the bed. I felt her sit down and place her hands on my back. As I was trying to roll over, she pushes me back down. So I try to roll again and she pushes harder. Now I'm mad, thinking she's playing with me. But the pressure gets harder and harder. Now my wife is 4'10" and 120 pounds soaking wet. I'm 5'10" and 270 pounds. She is not able to hold me down like that, but this one did. I could feel the fingernails digging into my back, and I said in a loud voice with all my might, "Enough." I came up with an elbow that would have knocked anyone out cold, and no one was there. The outline, the hair, the height was all the same as my wife's. I instantly called her and asked her where she was and if she was messing with me. She was over an hour away from the house. That next day, I was off from work and my wife went to bed. And I was not tired, so I go to the living room and start watching TV. My wife comes in and asks what I keep coming in there for, because she can't sleep with me walking around the bedroom. I told her I have not been back in there since I left earlier. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on these stories, and of course, if you have a story you would like me to share, feel free to DM me.
Y'all, this lady helped her son set up a train table in their attic and caught something actually terrifying on camera. The mom and son just got done setting up this train table in their attic, and she took a picture of her son. In the photo, it looks like electricity is going around this child. Now, this was taken on a disposable camera, so she didn't even see this photo until months after it was taken. And right above her son looks like another child, but screaming. Although the son looks happy, the apparition that is appearing above him looks very distraught. And like I said, the spirit is manifested around him and it looks like electricity. So maybe it's like feeding off of his energy or something. It makes you wonder, what happened in this house? Why does this spirit of what looks like a child seem so distraught? Is it upset with the train table being in the attic? Or maybe it's upset with the child being up there? It really makes you wonder what happened to the spirit and what kind of attachment it has to this attic. What do y'all think? Let me know.
So listen to me.
Did you know that this famous haunted theater has a basement that holds horrors? If you are into the paranormal, this is my series, Haunted US, where we are diving into the paranormal cases, cryptids of every state in the United States. We are currently focusing on Arizona and in particular, Tombstone. And I did not know about this basement until doing all this research. I need to know now. I need to know if anybody knows all of the history from down there or has had an experience from being down there. Please tell me in the comments. It is said that people hear the sound of chains, people screaming, the sound of people begging for their lives, and that there is blood soaked into the ground. And people sometimes even see what looks like fresh blood down there. People have also been scratched in that basement, and I can only imagine the horrors that happen there and what negative entities have been drawn to that place. This building is now a museum after being abandoned for decades and truly frozen in time. They still have the original fixtures as well as bullet holes in the walls and the blood-stained floorboards. If you guys are ever out there, you have to check it out. And if you want to learn more about the haunts here, make sure to watch my other 3 videos. There is so much. This place is so fully charged that people even have reported seeing the stage having full-blown scenes from the plays that used to be there, as well as the spirit of the stagehand. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like, follow, share, and save for later and below what state you want to see next.
If you've had any of these dreams, a spirit could be trying to get your attention.
Make sure you save this before number 4 freaks you out. Oh, and before I go any further, I have been a practicing witch of over 25 years. I've been fascinated by the paranormal and investigating it for 50. If you want to learn how to protect your energy and cleanse your space of any negativity, I go into that in a lot of detail in my subscription. Anyway, let's get into these dreams. So number 1, dreaming of a deceased loved one who is trying to tell you something, but you wake up before you hear it. The classic. Number 2, seeing the same stranger in your dreams repeatedly. They feel very familiar and they watch you without speaking. Number 3, clocks, lights, phones malfunctioning in your actual dream. Spirits are actually said, even in the waking life, to be able to manipulate and communicate through electrical frequencies, currents, and so it's no different in your dream. Number 4, waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. with that feeling that you're just not alone. And number 5, a dream where someone calls your name and you wake up just at that moment. This is supposedly a spirit confirming contact.
I was never actually alone in my childhood home. I need to tell you guys this ghost story. This story was sent into my email, and if you have any ghost stories, paranormal encounters, or scary stories that you want to share, you can send them to the email in my bio. Growing up, the house my family lived in always had a strange atmosphere. It's hard to explain. Nothing looked unusual. It hadn't been abandoned or some creepy old building, but from the moment you walked through the front door, there was a feeling, especially upstairs. It always felt like someone was there, watching, just out of sight. Every trip to the bathroom at night felt like a race. Every time I walked up the stairs, I'd get this overwhelming urge to turn around because I felt absolutely convinced something was right behind me. After a while, me and my family got used to it. It became normal, just part of living there. But pretty soon, strange things started happening. One day, my mom was walking home from the supermarket when a friend recognized and stopped her. "Why isn't your daughter at school today?" she asked. My mom had laughed and said, "What do you mean? I just finished dropping her off this morning." But her friend shook her head. "No, I just waved at her. She was sitting in her bedroom window." My mom was understandably confused and a little freaked out. I wasn't at home. She had dropped me off at school that morning. I was sitting in a classroom right then, miles away. Yet, apparently, someone was sitting in my bedroom window. Someone who looked enough like me that a family friend was convinced it was me. A different afternoon, everyone was out of the house except for my brother. He was upstairs when he started hearing a loud banging noise coming from downstairs. Over and over and over again, bang, bang, bang. He said it sounded exactly like the lid of my mom's metal bread bin slamming shut repeatedly. At first, he assumed someone had come home, so he went downstairs to see who was there. But when he got down there, the house was completely empty. The bread bin was untouched, as it had been when we had left it, and the banging he had heard stopped the moment he reached the kitchen. My other brother, one evening, was walking down the hill toward our house, and as he got closer, he found himself looking up towards his bedroom window. And that's when he saw someone standing there, looking out of the window back at him. He was absolutely certain somebody was inside. He assumed one of us were home, but when he got there, the house was empty. It had scared him so badly that he refused to go back inside, and he sat outside waiting for the rest of us to come home. Then things started disappearing. Weird things like cooker rings and cutlery and random household objects. We'd spend days searching for them, and then weeks later we'd find them in the freezer. Nobody knew how they got there, nobody admitted moving them, and it happened so often that eventually it became a running joke. Whenever something disappeared, we'd blame a ghost we named George. A fork missing? George. Something moved? George. George is at it again, we'd laugh. At least we did at first. One afternoon, my mom and her friend Lynn were sitting in the living room talking. The conversation had turned emotional. They were speaking about another close friend who had passed away, and about Lynn's baby boy, who had also sadly passed away. The room was quiet and filled with heavy emotions when my mom noticed that the room was freezing, and she said as much to her friend, "It feels cold in here." She stretched out her hand, and another hand appeared out of thin air. Disembodied, a singular hand. It reached out and held my mom's hand for only a moment, and then it was gone. After that, things calmed down for a little while, but when I was around 10 years old, my brother woke me up in the middle of the night. He told me to go downstairs. When I got there, my mom was sitting in the living room, and she looked shaken. I asked what was going on, and she simply said, "Nothing, we'll talk about it tomorrow." A little later, her boyfriend arrived. Nobody would explain anything to me, and eventually I just went back to bed. The next day, some of my mom's friends came over. At one point, my mom asked me to run upstairs and grab her cigarettes, and as I came back down the stairs, I overheard part of the conversation, and I wish I hadn't. My mom was telling them what had happened during the night. She said she'd been sleeping, when suddenly something woke her up. Someone was grabbing her face, and as it did, she heard a voice right beside her ear. "You bitch." Not long after that, my mom decided to bring a medium into the home. The medium immediately focused on my mom's bedroom. She performed prayers and then pointed to a mirror that my mom had received years earlier. The mirror, she said, was acting as a portal. She instructed my mom to cover it and move it immediately. The medium also claimed the spirit we'd nicknamed George wasn't dangerous at all. She believed that George was actually there trying to protect us. After all of that, during my teenage years, I would regularly experience sleep paralysis. And it always followed the same strange pattern. I'd wake up, unable to move, unable to scream, unable to even turn my head. Then I'd hear the voices. Multiple voices, people standing around me reciting the Lord's Prayer over and over and over again. I would squeeze my eyes shut, trying to force myself back to sleep. Then I'd wake up again, and the voices would still be there, still reciting, still surrounding me. Finally, when I was 17, I moved out of that house. I'm 35 now, and in all those years since leaving, it's never happened again, not once. My mom always believed that the reason for everything traces back to her playing with the Ouija board when she was a teenager. She doesn't think she properly closed the session. She's convinced that whatever answered her that one night never really left her. And after everything we've experienced, maybe she's right.
We're getting ready for Love Island tonight, so I got some snacks. I got myself some popcorn, some Monk Buds. I have flavoring for popcorn, I hope, and some Code Red. Let me tell you, not that I don't work at the restaurant anymore, let me tell you a crazy story about a regular we used to have, who he stopped coming in because, yeah, we made that happen because he was weird. So, first time I don't know, this guy used to come in for breakfast. He would come in like kind of like between 9 and 10, I guess, and I had him like a couple times in a row, and he was just like, he kind of just like gave you that look, like this weird big-eyed look, and like he was like looking into your soul, whatever, and that was fine, whatever. Guy by himself, it's not an abnormal thing. Well, then we have this girl who works there, and she's got like these really long fingernails, and like they're all done, whatever. And apparently someone was like, "Hey, so-and-so wants," or that guy wants to take a picture of your nails, or he wants to see your nails. She goes over there, she comes back, he's like, "Oh, he asked to take a picture." We're like, "Did you let him take a picture?" And she let him take a picture. I was like, "Oh, that was your first mistake. Why would you do that?" Well, then he just kept coming back and being weird and weird and weird. And there was one coworker who me and her works like every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday, Sunday together. And he started coming in twice a day. Every time she worked, he wouldn't come in if she didn't work. And she had a little heart like tattoo on her neck, and he was like, "Huh, you must like pain, huh?" And the moment he said that, she was like, "Fuck this, nope." So she refused to like take him as like a guest, and so he always had to be sat with somebody else. But then I was like, he was just saying something, so we ended up having our manager go over and like say something like, "Sir, you need to stop acting and saying these certain things." And he just stopped coming in. Thank the Lord.